Suicide Squad came out this past Thursday on both HBO Max and in theaters. Um, what Suicide Squad came out in 2016, the original 2017?
Correct. August 2016, same year as
Jeez.
Batman versus Superman.
So 5 years. 5 years it's been. And there was talk of a sequel right after the David Ayer original Suicide Squad. Him and Will Smith went on to make Bright, and then they were supposed to get right back to making a Suicide Squad sequel. But I think the reception to the first Suicide Squad may have had something to do with the decision not to make a follow up right away. And I believe Ayer didn't want to do it eventually after all of the critical reception. Is that right? If I'm recalling, I didn't write this down, but
Well, he also eventually everyone was towing the party line in 2016, but once people realized the movie wasn't any good, things started to come out.
right.
And notably that the movie was hacked to shit by Warner Brothers, and whatever movie David Ayer did make was not the one we got to see. It was heavily cut after various test audiences and reshoots and yada yada. Again, this is
That's
two
right.
Warner Brothers film regimes ago at this point, so not an indictment of what they do today, but you've seen release the Ayer cut trend in the wake of the success, we could say, of the Snyder cut reboot of Justice League, as it were. And I think the problem with everything about the Ayer cut is that David Ayer hasn't shown that he's in the best space to justify this in the wake of Suicide Squad 1. You mentioned Bright, Netflix film that got some eyeballs on it, but is not liked as a good movie. You can double that for The Tax Collector, which came out last year, released by David Ayer, which is quite bad. And I just say, if you've seen The Tax Collector and you've seen Bright, how can you really be that invested in what the original vision of this movie was? And it's also moot because they made a reboot pseudo Suicide Squad 2 anyway, of course, just out from James Gunn. So it's a weird legacy, Suicide Squad 1. And, even though it was critically panned and not even well liked at all, it was disliked. It still made a lot of money, $746 million worldwide. It actually had pretty good legs for a movie that everyone said sucked.
Yeah, and thinking back to, the parts I remember disliking were some of the Harley Quinn and Joker stuff. I think Leto's Joker is just so polarizing and hard to take a hard character for some people to really get into. Some of the dialogue was just really bad. Obviously, the movie, like you said, was chopped to shit and just with nonsensical points. But I also just remember Cara Delevingne's character.
Yes.
I'm forgetting the name. Just being
Enchantress.
Yes, Enchantress just being such a terrible aspect of the movie in general.
And on side of that, you have these faceless husk, cannon fodder villain characters. It's there's just so much unlikable extraterrestrial stuff going on when it's really supposed to be a super high concept thing. It's all these bad guys, these criminals hired to do a job together like the Dirty Dozen. It's supposed to be quite simple, and to have Enchantress doing all this magic shit as a corrupted villain, just completely incongruous to what you think the movie should be about. And now that there can't be extraterrestrial stuff going on, it does not get in the way in Suicide Squad 2, of course, the Suicide Squad. But for Suicide Squad 1, it was just such a mess. Do we even need Jared Leto's Joker at all in that movie? Because the character's barely in it, So a lot of issues with it, but it's also honestly just completely old news at this point because it's a relic of the past regime when it came to the DC films.
Definitely. And, we mentioned that Will Smith and David Ayer didn't come back, and we only get a handful of people who come back, from the original one. We have
4 people:
Margot Robbie, Jai Courtney, Viola Davis, and
Joel Kinnaman.
Joel Kinnaman as Colonel Rick Flag.
And Courtney dies really fast, so it's really only 3 people.
Yeah, that's I think that's the thing is this movie really subverted my expectations. It got super weird. Um, it has a really awesome beginning, I think, that just kind of like
Yeah.
basically like throws you for a twist right away. And it ended up I think working on multiple levels, beyond it being a good superhero action movie. I think it actually had some larger meaning and some real takeaways in terms of like heartfelt moments. And yeah, I was pretty impressed and um glad that we finally got like a successful Suicide Squad film. Did you feel the same way after watching?
Oh yeah, totally, totally. Like it does so many things right. I mean, it has lots of good humor, as we've come to expect from James Gunn franchise movies with the Guardians films, of course. We're R-rated R, so there's a lot of like, ultra violence going on, but it's, I think, all still pretty good. And perhaps most, I don't know, probably the best part about it as a film is like it doesn't like get in the weeds of what it is, despite like covering a lot of ground. Like it's super easy to understand premise in the beginning, like what the Waller stuff in the prisons, like super fast, bad guys, bombing their heads, do what I tell you. Like you get everything super fast if you don't
Hmm.
know what's going on or anything. And like I expected a lot of those characters to not make it in the beginning, but to really see everyone wiped out right away, and then you get like this really cool like title card and like the smoke or blood, whichever one it was, and we switch to the actual squad we're going to be hanging out with in the
Hmm.
beginning for our title card. Like it really, really effective start.
Yeah, super effective start. Also, I was pretty devastated when the Weasel died in the beginning. Now, I mean, this is a spoiler review. The Weasel does end up not dying at the end, which I was happy about. But yeah, I I just was like so. I did not expect to see it the way that we did either. Because it's gory ends for most of them. Like
Mm,
Pete Davidson's character's head gets just like completely blown in half. It's crazy stuff. Very gory, but I enjoyed it.
yeah.
Um, yeah, and then I think the seeing the actual squad kind of come together, them retrieving Colonel Rick Flag and that whole thing, like it ended up. I it's hard to like walk through it because I almost feel like it's like hard to explain. There's a starfish that is an
Starro.
alien, yeah, alien from outer space and is enormous and being kept as a undercover as a
Mm,
American weapon or like a worldwide
yeah.
weapon that they're
There's some great comment on American foreign policy as like
oh
pretext for
totally
this movie, about like imperialism and like hiding bad stuff going on in other countries. Like it's not subtle by any means, but I think it's still really
no
effective as just like part of the film. And yeah, you meant like Starro, Project Starfish. It's like it's
hmm
there's no secret where it's going, but it's a CGI filled third act that like it's not garish. It doesn't make your eyes glaze over. It's really still riveting and awesome.
yeah
And like it's kind of like really cool how much momentum there was in this movie start to finish. Like you mentioned the scene where they get flagged, like it's played for laughs watching them slaughter a bunch of good guys like the guerrillas, the rebels in this fictional South American country. It's like it's just really funny, and like I think the
yeah
chemistry of the squad is done really well, and it's you have the Harley Quinn factor going on. I think it's the best Harley Quinn movie of the three, or Harley Quinn like role of the three.
absolutely
Um, yeah, I mean, there's so much to like about it. Um, I didn't expect to have Rick Flag, Joel Kinnaman's character, like characterized and colored in this movie to the point where you're actually invested in him, and then when he gets killed, you're like really sad about it. Like I didn't expect that to be a feeling I had, but yeah, we had yeah we had it.
yeah I was thinking is this the best like Kinnaman movie like the best role he's had in a movie
In a
I mean I'm
movie,
trying to
maybe,
think.
yeah, because like he breaks out with The Killing TV, makes a big
Hmm.
impression in House of Cards TV,
Yep.
and then he's had a lot of movie roles that are up and down. RoboCop didn't go anywhere. Suicide Squad 1, obviously not his best showing. Not that it was his fault.
No one's
Um,
best showing. Yeah.
um, Yeah, I thought he was really good in this. And like he actually can
Yeah,
handle something like the late comedy too, which he just wasn't even given a chance to do in the first one.
yeah, no, and I'm thinking about the scene where they go to break Harley out, right? And you have an awesome Harley Quinn moment where she basically just frees herself,
Yes, not
plays
a damsel.
dead. Yes, exactly. And you see him in Bloodsport, played by Idris Elba, like sneaking across the street, and like just how funny that visual was, like not being like subtle at all. And then she comes up behind them, it's like, hey, what are you guys doing? Like, what are you? Why are you here? She's like, we're here to save you. She's like, oh, I'll go back in. Like, it's just a great like back and forth moment. But yeah, I thought he played that so well, and I mean, I laughed when I said Colonel Rick Flag because I think from the first movie, I just was like, this is a total joke. This role, like, just
Yeah,
kind of like shepherding the bigger stars from one scene to another. It's like not a good look for Joel Kinnaman. He gets real work in this, and it's really
right.
nice to see him like kill it when he gets it. So,
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like that because I liked him on House of Cards a lot, and I think he's
mhm.
good. So I'm happy to see this. I also really love John Cena as Peacemaker, and like the
Right?
turn you get for Peacemaker, I think is really effective. Like I said, you get invested in what happens to Flag, and that's of course due the result of Cena. I have to say, like it's just such a good use of Cena's talents as an actor. I think back to Blockers, the comedy from 2018, where he's one of the
Yep.
dads. It's the kids going to prom comedy, and he's also hilarious in that. But this, like he has the physicality. We know that obviously, given his roots, but he has really good comedic timing, and it's just a great use of his talents in the Suicide Squad, and just really brings back how little of an impression he leaves in Fast Nine, where he's
Oh yeah.
playing someone who's not comedic at all. I think between like Blockers and this Cena, this is like great performance. And like we just talked about The Rock last week. In terms of actor wrestler alums. It's uh, I think this is like have you been impressed with The Rock at the level that you were just impressed with Cena as Peacemaker? Because I don't think I have been.
I mean, the Rock is just like a completely like his own entity at this point. He's bigger than movie stardom. He's
Yeah,
probably going to
he's
run for president
himself.
someday. It's just
Right.
like it's always
Most
the
followed
Rock.
person on Instagram.
But Cena, yeah, I was really impressed, and I also thought just like perfect casting as this like superhero, but also like grimy, like real just
Mm,
a tool for the American government's like
yes.
ill will, which I just perfectly
I
cast.
love peace and I don't care how many people I kill to keep the peace or whatever he says.
Right. Yeah, I was really impressed with him, and I thought him and Idris Elba, getting to Idris Elba as Bloodsport, pretty much the Will Smith replacement.
Yeah, very similar to
Um,
Deadshot in terms of
yeah,
skills.
yeah, and also kind of like
They even have a kid.
attitude.
Both
Yeah,
had a kid, both have attitude with authority, like very
yeah,
similar. I mean, at one point
basic,
Idris was going to be playing Deadshot and they decided to switch it up.
which I think is
But
the right call
definitely the right
for
call,
sure.
but character wise, it's still very, very familiar.
Yeah, and
You know,
I think
reluctant leader thing, a lot of tropes.
right, and I think he gets the most to work with, obviously, being I'd guess you could call him like the leading star of this alongside Margot Robbie. Those two seem to be like the two that were kind of billed as the top people. But him not only growing into that reluctant leader role and kind of finding how to like push all the right buttons and uh, actually building camaraderie with these weirdos, but also he gets to be funny, like him and uh, John Cena's character Peacemaker going back and forth about like who's a better shot. Oh, I shoot smaller bullets, and my bullet would go through your bullet thing. Where they're like flipping each other off as they're like walking around during the mission and stuff like that. Like it all really worked for me, and I, I've been I think Idris Elba is a really talented guy, but I don't always think his roles really grab me, and I don't always think he really like kills him. I think sometimes he puts in some performances that maybe just don't work for me. I thought this totally worked, and I kind of expected it not to going in. My expectations for Suicide Squad were pretty low to begin with, so I was like, we'll see if this really is a solid Idris Elba role, and I thought he was just phenomenal. So, really impressed with that. Did you like his performance?
I did. I did, yeah. Idris just has a certain charisma as a performer that is always there, even if like the role doesn't totally work. Like his role in Molly's Game always comes to mind. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like a messy role, and also him trying to do a American accent didn't seem to work. This time they let him be British, and they let
Mhm.
him just kind of stick to his strengths, and it works really well. Um, you know, casting wise, I actually loved Sylvester Stallone as Nawe, King
Yo,
Shark. Um,
King Shark stole this movie, dude.
Obviously, the Groot character in this
Yeah.
James Gunn film, and Stallone, a Guardians 2 alum, so you get the
Mhm.
connection there. But Stallone was really good because there's more lines for King Shark here than there were for Groot, obviously. And yeah, just really funny, and you're rooting for him. And I was like really concerned that he was going to die, like when he was getting shot by all the M16s at the end there, and then
Mhm.
like
When all
you're,
those like fish creatures were biting
yes,
him, I
you're
was like,
invested
bro,
in King Shark, which is not some which is it's
going in, you wouldn't
testament to
have
the
thought that.
movie. And like reading about the film, there were no reshoots for this. James Gunn had a clear vision, and that's why he
Yeah.
got everyone to sign back on for this, because they really liked his script, and you could tell how you know clean cut it was. And like to pull off King Shark, to pull off the Groot thing twice is just kind of a miracle.
Yeah. And I mean, I left that just being like, I would die for King Shark. He's just a phenomenal character. Um, you know, it's funny because I feel like I almost want to talk about every character here, and I
Yeah.
don't want this to be like an hour long pod just on Suicide Squad, but Polka Dot Man, another
Yes.
character I thought was going to be super stupid and lame, and obviously that's kind of what they were going for. Totally sucked me into it, and he ended up having a nice arc. Obviously, Ratcatcher 2 had a really
Mm,
nice arc, and some nice flashback moments with Taika Waititi. I think especially like a nice like emotional cap at the end with those two in terms of like the what the soul of
mhm.
the movie was. But we got to talk about Harley Quinn, man. I mean, we
Yeah.
we kind of danced around it, but you said this is probably the best Harley Quinn role, I guess. Like, would you say
Yeah.
better than Birds of Prey?
Yeah. I mean, between those two, obviously, I think it is,
Yeah.
because it just feels like everything she's doing works. Like it's still like a lot. Like early on, it's a lot of Harley by herself. She's not with the rest of the Suicide Squad for most of the
Hmm.
film, but it didn't feel out of place. It didn't feel like a side story at all. Her whole thing with the romance with the dictator guy and how she kills him. Everything about that was great. You know.
Yeah, that I really liked that scene when she kills him and she has like the. I always told myself I had saw any more red flags, I'd murder them first. Just like so good. Also, I didn't necessarily see that coming, which I thought was like a nice little twist. I
Yeah.
mean, I assumed she would probably not end up with the guy, but I didn't expect it to be something like that. Um, yeah, this feels very true to the Harley Quinn character, and I think Birds of Prey, she was really thrust into more of a like that reluctant leader role like you talked about, but also just like badass role. And here she got to be there were multitudes to Harley, which I really liked and thought that was good. Um yeah, and then I mean I guess we didn't really talk about the villains that much, but did you like the was
Starro.
Starro? Did you like Starro?
I love Starro. I also like how they like contextualize Starro as like this
Yes.
guy trapped, and he has these ambitions. Like when he dies, when he's like, I just wanted to look at the sky again or something. It's
I
like,
was
oh fuck.
happy just looking up at the stars, man. I was like,
Yeah. It's
oh,
like, oh no. Yeah, you were just
Starro.
murdering people and shit, but oh damn, maybe we should just let him go.
Yeah,
Obviously.
you're just misunderstood.
And I was actually reading he has a decades long history in the comics, and just kind of cool potential. I think how he grows and stuff. And yeah, for a CGI filled third act, you never get this riveted. Like
Yeah.
it's rare to see it land this way, but it really does. Um, Shout out Daniela Melchior, who plays Ratcatcher too. She's a Portuguese actress who is pretty unknown in Hollywood. I think her biggest thing was that she was the voice of Spider Gwen in the Portuguese dub of
Mm.
Into the Spider Verse. So she'll definitely get a lot of bigger looks now. And you mentioned Polka Dot Man. He's played by David Dasmalchian, who I've always liked ever since he has that really small role in The Dark Knight as one of the Joker's
Yep.
henchmen, because he's a really noticeable face and all that. So Uh,
He does.
whole
Yeah, that
ensemble is really effective in the Suicide Squad.
yeah, I mean, some of the like most well-known people in this, Pete Davidson,
Mm.
killed within the first like 10 minutes of this whole
Nathan
movie.
Fillion, same way.
Yeah. Just really I think just a real win for DC, which is nice. And I think DC, we've been talking about it, just continues to kind of just like find its stride. And I think obviously getting the right filmmakers and just kind of letting them have control and not, doing what they did with Ayers is obviously the right direction for them to be going in. I'm really pumped for the Matt Reeves Batman. I think that's going to be great. So DC, we spent a lot of time in the early days of the pod talking about the DC versus Marvel of everything. I'm glad to see the DC movie universe finding its stride and its own thing. It really feels like they're a separate thing, not competing anymore, which I like. So definitely good. Any more thoughts on the Suicide Squad, Dave?
Yeah, I was disappointed to see the box office was coming in under expectations, sub 30 million domestically. And on top of that, it got a B plus cinema score, which, as we know, with superhero movies is not a good score. And everyone I've talked to, everything I've seen has been overwhelmingly positive when talking about the film. But perhaps it's not, doesn't quite have the same mass market appeal. It is an R rated film, so we don't have like huge box office comps. But at the same time, it also came in under what Birds of Prey did right as the pandemic was beginning. Obviously, there's so many factors with this, given that the movie was also for free on HBO Max. But I'd like to see DC rewarded a little bit more, given how effective I think the movie is. It's arguably the best DCEU movie, and there's a lot of them at this point, so I think that means a lot. So
Hmm.
either way, we'll get the Batman soon. We've got Blue
Yeah,
Beetle casting news, so the Aquaman 2 filming right now, the Flash filming. They're finally getting their shit together. It's nice.
yeah, definitely nice. Just want to shout out this one line reading real quick after some some person in the control center knocks out Viola Davis's
Oh
was her Agent Waller character. Get
yeah.
on a satellite, Dale, you fucking dickhead. Like what a moment. I was dying laughing at that. And I think that's the other thing that maybe we didn't hit home hard enough. This movie's actually really funny, dude. Like,
Yeah.
it's hilarious at points. So check it out. Go watch it if you haven't. Maybe this will be one of the first movies that has a good second weekend box office because I think it deserves a real win for moviegoers and DC.